What's up guys, my name's Stu, and today we're going to be looking at the new Merian Command Science Dreadnought. The Marian is another 32nd century ship from Star Trek Discovery. If you watched Discovery's Season 4 finale, you may recognize this ship as the USS Mitchell. Being a 32nd century ship means the ship will feature things like a 32nd century cloaking device and floating nacelles. So, let's go take a closer look at the stats. The Merian Science Command Dreadnought will be coming to the Infinity lockboxes on April 5th. The blog only says for PC, so I assume console will be getting this at a later date. There are only a handful of other Science Dreadnoughts in the game, so this has the potential to be a pretty interesting ship. As I said earlier, this is a 32nd century ship from Star Trek Discovery, so it's going to have a rather distinct appearance. I know some people really like the 32nd century ships, and some people really hate them. If you're in the latter, deal with it, they're canon. Now let's get into the stats. The ship has a hull modifier of 1.45, which is pretty high but not super high because this is a Science Dreadnought and not a full Dreadnought cruiser. A shield modifier of 1.1, which is actually kind of low for a science ship, but the 32nd century ships tend to be more hull focused than shield focused. It has a 4-3 weapons layout, 3 device slots. For the bridge layout, it has a Lieutenant Tactical seat, a Lieutenant Commander Engineering/Command, an Ensign Science seat, a Commander Science/Command seat, and a Lieutenant Commander Universal seat. The ship is pretty heavy with command seating, so if you like torpedo builds, this is a decent option. In the consoles, it has 3 tactical, 4 engineering, and 4 science, a base turn rate of 7, an impulse modifier of 0.19, and an inertia rating of 65. That's not a great turn rate, but considering the size of the ship, it kind of makes sense, though the inertia rating is a bit higher than I would have expected. You probably won't be doing as much sliding around in this ship as you would in others in this size. It gets plus 20 to auxiliary power, which makes sense, it is a science vessel. It can equip dual cannons, though frankly I don't know why you would want to. This is a full command ship, so it does have the inspiration abilities. As I said earlier, this is a 32nd century ship, so it will have a 32nd century battle cloak. And this is still a science ship, so it will have subsystem targeting, sensor analysis, and a secondary deflector slot, and have the usual science vessel mastery package, which gives buffs to exotic damage, shield HP, healing, and shield regeneration and hardness. The console on this ship is called Reactive Radiometric Shielding. Despite the word shielding in the name, this is actually a hull heal console. What it does is convert enemy energy weapon damage into radiation. That radiation bubble will deal radiation damage to enemies within 5 kilometers and restore hull to you and any allies in range. This console also gives passive buffs to radiation damage resistance, and hull regeneration. An AoE damage bubble like this means you'll be able to deal damage to multiple targets at the same time. Plus this console is able to heal multiple allies at the same time, which means this could be a pretty decent tanking console. The Marian Starship trait is called Scientific Bulwark. Activating certain bridge officer abilities that increase your damage resistance rating will give a stacking buff to your control expertise, drain expertise, and exotic particle generator skills. Each stack is a plus 35 buff to all 3 skills, which lasts for 15 seconds and can stack up to 5 times. This trait will trigger off of the following abilities: Attack Pattern Beta, Attack Pattern Omega, Auxiliary Power to Inertial Dampeners, Auxiliary Power to Structural Integrity, Hazard Emitters, Polarized Hull, Hold Together, and Reroute Shields to Hull Containment. Control, Drain, and EPG are the 3 skills that are behind the 3 major science builds, so this is kind of a decent all-in-one science trait. That said, I would like this trait better if it didn't trigger off of abilities that only increase damage resistance. Some of these are pretty decent abilities like Attack Pattern Beta and Omega, but most of these are heal or damage resistance abilities, which really aren't all that useful. Extra Structural Integrity isn't that bad of a choice though because it has a really low cooldown, but most of these I wouldn't bother using on a science build. So yeah, not a bad trait, but not necessarily a great trait in my opinion. Now this ship is a little weird, but it's really not a bad ship. Being a science dreadnought and a command ship, you could actually make this into a pretty decent science tank. Science tanks are kind of weird, and I don't fully understand how to build one yet, but you definitely need a good amount of science and command abilities, and the high hull modifier is pretty helpful too. The ship could also be made into a pretty decent torpedo build thanks to the 4-3 layout and, again, command ship. Though, frankly, there are plenty of good torpedo build ships, a number of which are actually easy to get your hands on because remember, this is a lockbox ship. I almost forgot to talk about one last thing on this ship, the pets. The Marian comes with new 32nd century Federation shuttlecraft hangar pets. It'll come equipped with a 32nd century phaser beam array and omni beam array, and be able to use structural integrity manipulators. This allows them to drain hull off of enemies, or restore hull to nearby allies. Each time this ability is activated, it'll swap between its offensive and defensive versions. So the first time it's activated, it'll be the hull drain, but the next time the shuttles use it, it'll be the hull heal. Interesting pets, especially if you like hull heals. though I can't really see myself in a situation where I would use these over something more offensive focused, like the Alliance Fighter Squadrons. So yeah, that is the Merian Command Science Dreadnought. Like I said, this would make a really good science-based tank, but then again, science-based tanks are pretty niche as it is. You could also put a decent conventional tank build on the ship, but again, there are plenty of ships you can tank on. And this ship being a lockbox ship, it's going to be more expensive than a lot of those. So yeah, interesting ship, but definitely not something I feel the need to get. Anyway, please be sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button, and be sure to comment down below. My name's Stu, and I'll see you guys next time.